Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, August 13th, and this is virtual lunch number 369. Our guest today is Michael Hubel, a co-founder and the chief product officer at BRYTER. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm really good.
Well, I'm grateful for your time and I'm excited. This is, as you know, part of our continuing series on no code in legal, supported by BRYTER, and I really appreciate that. Can you tell us about your background and the inspiration behind BRYTER?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm one of the three co-founders, I'm managing director, and I'm also chief product officer. So I'm the one who's building the BRYTER product, which is geared towards make all of your lives easier and help you to digitalize your knowledge and automate it. So the genesis is that my co-founders are lawyers, but lawyers who turned entrepreneurs at some point in their career. And I'm not a lawyer. That's definitely the difference between us. And they came up with the idea because obviously they knew the market, they knew the pains. They knew that best no-code tool that people still have is Excel. And I knew them from previous events and they reached out to me and they asked me if I would be interested to join. And I said, no way. I'm not interested. I don't see this problem. This changed when I did my own research and I interviewed other lawyers and I interviewed people in compliance positions. And I realized, yeah, there is a pain and there is so much to improve. And that caught my attention. And it was a very quick decision. We founded the company within 4 weeks. And since then, it's just awesome. In general, cross-functional teams or diverse teams create better results. That's a general term, right? It has nothing to do with lawyers and others. This is just true in life in general. So if you bring smart people from different areas with different backgrounds together with different expert knowledge, then mostly great things happen. We have people in Russia, we in India, in the US. I had the plan actually to visit everyone and to really travel in each city. And this plan I made at the beginning of 2020. And here I am sitting at home in a pandemic. So we are big fans of remote. I love it. Personally, I would never, ever work in a company who would not be remote. But what we learned is that doesn't mean that we should not meet. We still need that human element and we still need to hug each other and sense each other. And what we learned is that ideally this happens every 3 months. So that's how it started basically. So we met every quarter and we used that time to align, to plan our objectives. You're trying to run on a quarterly rhythm where you say, okay, this is the best rhythm we can look at and can plan some objectives. And that's great to be in a room together. So we are together for 3 days, plan the next quarter. Then we can go back home, be in our safe space, get our jobs done. And then we can meet again after 3 months, celebrate what we have achieved, plan the next quarter, and then go ahead. So in the very beginning, we said we want to build the best on-site company in Frankfurt because all of us were basically coming from on-site companies. My previous company that I had was also an on-site company. And I did not even think about building a remote company at the very beginning. I was just like, hey, I want to build this company. What do I do? Of course, I have an office and I hire people now in this city. And I hire the best people in the city. But while we started hiring the best people in the city, we also realized that limits us quite a lot. And that's where Aaron comes into play because I met Aaron after 2 months of BRYTER because I was looking for a product designer. And I was looking for designers in Frankfurt and I met someone in Frankfurt, which turned out to be Aaron's sister. And she told me she is interested in a job, but I'm looking for an even better person. And she knows an even better person, which is Aaron. The problem is Aaron is in Hungary. And that put me in that first position where I realized, okay, what's now more important? Is it more important for me to hire people in the city that I am? Or is it for me more important to hire the best possible person for the job? So what is my priority actually as a company? Is it the best talent or is it the best talent in my city? And it felt quite obvious if you look at it that way, because obviously you want to have the best talent and not only being limited to your one city. And that's actually how it started, because then we realized, hey, let's try it out. And Aaron was remote. The others were on site. And that's basically how the transition started towards remote work. As a young company, I mean, you can experiment, right? You can say, hey, let's try it out. If it doesn't work, we change it again and we go back on site. A lot of companies obviously accidentally remote and everyone's just waiting to go back. So we were basically like, no one else was doing it. But there are only a few companies in the world who are remote. And the first question I always got was, Michael, how do you control your people? How do you make sure that people actually work from home and not sitting at home and watching TV? The very interesting fact is that now everyone has remote experience. And we realize now that the problem is mostly the opposite. We work too much when we are at home. But 1.5 years ago, no one was even assuming this, right? Everyone thought, okay, we cannot go remote because then people will not work anymore. That has changed. So people have realized you still work even if you are at home. But as soon as people now move back to the office, and that the company will not be remote first anymore, and people who are remote most likely also have a disadvantage. So that's one thing that we learned at the beginning as well. So at the beginning, then we were hybrid, right? So there were a few folks sitting in the office and then there were a few folks being remote. And what automatically happened is that we split into two groups implicitly. So people were starting to refer to the remotees, and the remotees were referring to people in the office. And that's something that you don't want, right? You don't want to have that split. And people in the office obviously talked about things which then weren't accessible for the remote people. And that's why at some point we just said, okay, either we do it right or we should not do it, because it's not efficient to be in the hybrid mode. And then we said, okay, now everyone needs to go and work from home, because either we are committed to it and we don't see our remotees as our second level employees, or it doesn't make sense. Being remote doesn't mean not to meet. For me, it still means you should meet it, at least try it every quarter. One of the first things is that we actually tell people that we are a remote company before they join, right? So people deliberately choose to work that way, which is already a big benefit. People join and they are not like, oh no, I need to do remote work now. There is this curiosity, which obviously helps a lot, right? People join with a positive mindset. If you are junior in your role, then remote work is really hard, because you learn by observing. And if there's no one around you who can look and you can see and you can observe how other people work and how other people do the job, then it is really hard for you. If you have realized that, then you can set up dedicated programs for that. But I felt especially for these people, so if you're inexperienced in your job, then it's hard. If you're experienced, if you know what you're doing, if you have that expertise already, then why not? So if you need a person sitting next to you so that you actually do your work because you feel observed or something, then remote work is obviously not a good thing for you. So you need to be able to self-lead. One thing that we also do is try to really enable people to give peer feedback, so that they are not only talking to a manager who tells them or gives them feedback, but also just reach out to your peers and have sessions with them, reflect together. What can we do? What can we improve? But I feel like this is not different in a remote company. It might even be better in a remote company because you are used to more explicit processes around it. And that's just one of them. I'm afraid people will go back to the old patterns quite fast, because what you will learn is that if you want to be successful in your career, you need to be on site, because that's where the most of the information is shared. So the people who are on site will have an advantage. And if you learn this, then you will go back. And that's why I'm saying I really feel like this hybrid model is not working. You either say you're full remote and everyone is remote and everyone is equal, or not. Everything else is then just remote friendly. And then of course you can stay at home on Fridays, but you will switch back to the old patterns. Everyone should do what makes sense for them and what makes them most productive. The thing is, I'm a big fan of deliberately designing organizations. What happens right now is that things happen by accident. What companies in general should do, they should deliberately design their organizational structure. And when the organization has figured out the best way to be productive and to create value is by sitting in one office every day, well, that's great. Then let's do this and let's optimize this. If another organization has figured out our competitive advantage is that we offer the same services at this company, but everyone is remote, then we can do it this way. And then maybe some people from here go there at some point and some people from here go there. And the thing is, you will change continuously organizations. It's easier if you design it from the start, because then you can set an example and go from there.
Michael Hugel, everybody. Fantastic discussion. It's such a privilege to learn from you. And I'm so grateful to BRYTER for supporting this series on no code and legal. And I'm grateful to the whole BRYTER team for participating.